Hello, everybody. It's Leslie Tagorda, your brand designer and astrologer here today. And oh my gosh, I'm recording this on the Thursday after Mercury stopped in the sky to head backwards. And if you've been following me on social media, you know I'm in San Francisco and I've been posting these really eerie photos of these apocalyptical orange skies. And I've been hearing a lot from people on social media with this Mars retrograde, and I just recently did a master class, and everybody is just kind of anxious right now and, don't know where to like push forward or step back. And I really hope that because, we're in the next 10 weeks of Mars retrograde, that if you're feeling any anxiety, your job right now is to sit in the discomfort and really understand what's draining your energy and what's, whether your draining of energy turns into frustration or anger, or if it just turns into this time of like, you need to reset and retreat. Please do that for yourself. This is not the time to push. Well, I have a special episode today. We have a beautiful guest, a friend and a fellow astrology student, teacher. All of us astrologers, we always feel like, the learning never ends. So I know personally, I consider myself still a student, even though I'm also a teacher. And I feel that other astrologers feel the same way. I'll be sharing a special guest interview with the beautiful Vanessa Cordoniu. She is also known as the Business Bruja. She is a Latina born in Peru, and since a young age has been combining this kind of spirituality and reading in this way that they didn't yet have a word for it. There wasn't yet language in Spanish around teaching these kind of the spiritual and empathetic kind of knowledge that she has. She has a huge following, a podcast. She does psychic sessions and hypnotism, and she does also Akashic reading. She teaches Reiki. Oh my gosh, she is such a talented and wonderful being. So please enjoy the interview where she shares her journey of, of being behind the scenes. She has like Sun, Moon, and Mercury all in the 12th house. So she was really comfortable being behind the scenes and working in secret. But she decided to step out and be more visible so she could share her wisdom with even more people. So I really hope that you enjoy the interview just as much as I enjoyed speaking and listening to her story. Aloha and welcome to The Savvy Luminary, an astrology podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda. I'm an Aquarius boss woman, a brand designer, business astrologer, and overall business navigator, helping you reach your highest potential using astrology. You're not going to find any fear-mongering here. I'm going to teach you how to use astrology as an empowering tool that helps you believe and achieve your greatest gift. But before we get into Vanessa's interview, I needed to share the upcoming Virgo new moon because, my goodness, this is a powerful new moon. So instead of this week, I'm not going to go through all of the astrology of the week. Be sure to catch me on Facebook in my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, or on Instagram at New Moon Creative Co. You can find all of those notes in the show notes. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of doing the astrology here, because we have this beautiful interview, I'm going to be putting the astrology of the week online. So be sure to follow me there. And before I get into the new moon, I just wanted to share that we reached 5,000 downloads. The last 1,000 downloads for this humble little podcast, The Savvy Luminary, was so quick, and I am so excited that more and more people are looking to astrology to build their aligned businesses, taking the hustle out and working with ease and flow with our design. I'd like to share a review from Tasha, who shared this review on Stitcher. I am not one that listens to a lot of podcasts. This is really the only one I really gave my attention to. I love astrology, and Leslie has such a calm, smooth voice. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Oh my gosh, I love that, Tasha. I'm learning a lot from her. She is a brand navigator, guiding us and leading us into the stars. This is where we come to shine bright like the luminaries we are. Thank you, Leslie, our guiding light. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Tasha. That was such a beautiful review. So if you found this podcast helpful, please be a dear and share this with other like-minded business people looking to use astrology to build their luminary status. And of course, every time you rate and review my podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, this just increases the ranking and the ratings of this podcast so it gets fed to more listeners. So please help me out in that way. That will be the ultimate gift. All right, so now on to the Virgo new moon. I want to make this kind of short and sweet because I have this wonderful interview with Vanessa, but I couldn't not talk about the Virgo new moon this coming week. Virgo new moon happens on September 17th, that's Thursday, at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific. And oh my gosh, it is a very powerful new moon, and it's really a time to heal, right? And we can't really talk about business if we're not looking at the whole. And of course, the whole is about Virgo. A couple of episodes ago, I talked all about Virgo, so you can head back to episode 31 where I talked all about Virgo in our business. But now with this new moon, we get to clarify and set intentions around what wholeness means to us, not just in our business, but in the health of us personally, the health of us in our community, which includes your business, as well as the health of our planet. Gosh, just being in California, the West Coast is burning over the last few weeks. I've experienced orange skies, like I mentioned. I've experienced 111-degree heat. I mean, our planet really, really needs to heal. So I urge you, when you're thinking about your intentions for this Virgo new moon on Thursday the 17th, that you're thinking from it in multiple levels. On a personal level, in your closest community level, as well as the collective level. So a 3-level new moon intention for this super new moon in Virgo. Now, new moon in Virgo is going to happen at 25 degrees in Virgo. If you want to take a look at the chart, you can head over to thesavvyluminary.com and check out the show notes for this week. It is actually quite magnificent, this new moon. The most striking thing about this new moon is that both the sun and moon at 25 degrees of Virgo are forming an exact trine to Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn is also at retrograde in 25 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto's really close at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So, Pluto is in play here with this new moon. This is a time for all of us to really begin this healing process, right? If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that the house of cards that we have built of this unsustainable way of living, whether we look at capitalism or patriarchy or social justice issues or environmental issues, they're all related. And they're all crumbling right now. So each and every one of us has a chance to begin the healing. And of course, if you've been following any spiritual studies, the collective healing begins with us. And the healing is really about the earth. Right? So if we look at it on a personal level, what about you and your wholeness needs healing, right? A wholeness is, we don't just focus on one thing, whether it's like our physical health, whether it's our health and nutrition, or our spiritual health, whether we are aligned with our, our highest self and our purpose in the way that we work, or if we're dealing with emotional and mindset issues around, building wealth or sharing our knowledge. There's so many things that are going to be very specific to you. Only you know what truly needs healing. And of course, because we're talking about business, healing and wholeness really also looks at efficiency. I talked about in the Virgo podcast about Virgos wanting to be efficient, wanting to be analytical, wanting to systemize things and making things as perfect as possible, even though we know that perfection doesn't exist, right? So when you are setting your new moon intentions with this Virgo ideals, if you want to take a look at your chart, you can look at where 25 degrees of Virgo falls in your chart and what house that occupies will give you more insight as to what in your business, what in yourself wants more wholeness. I'll be having a house by house new moon Virgo prompts for you in social media. And of course, in Patreon, I'll be uploading a new moon worksheet so you can get really clear on the intentions that you want to set for this Virgo new moon. Because the moon and the sun will be in trine with Saturn and Pluto, we are really looking at sustainability, right? Both Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn and moon and sun in Virgo, we are dealing with earth signs. So on a personal level, of course, we're dealing with our body, right? Thinking about health and nutrition that, really feeds us to be able to work more efficiently, to be able to grow our businesses and grow our wealth. But we're also looking at just kind of the sustainability, right? That's Saturn in Capricorn that's going backwards, that's saying like, hey, the things that we've been doing in the past are not working for us, right? So, if you've been thinking about creating your business in a more sustainable way, there are many ways to express that. It could be even considering about, looking on an environmental collective level, maybe changing your, looking into how your business can be like more sustainable on like an environmental level, right? There's many businesses that now love being B corporations. If you haven't heard about a B Corp, they're great because you can get certified as a B corporation where you're looking at creating a new kind of business that balances purpose and profit, right? They're legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, communities, and the environment. It's a community of leaders driving a global movement of people using business as a force for good. So I actually am reading that off the website to become a certified B Corporation at bcorporation.net. Now, you can be any size of business to be a B Corporation. It just requires you to fulfill a certain amount of criteria in your business to show, and then you can put that logo on your website if this is something that really resonates with you. I know it does for me. I'm not yet a B Corporation. We are getting there. So a couple of questions to ask yourself in your business for this new moon in Virgo is, what does wholeness and efficiency feel like for you personally in your business, in your community at large? What kind of new systems might you want to build in your business? What does a healthy business and brand look like for you? Remember that I'll be posting things on social media so that you can get more insight for this upcoming new moon in Virgo. So last thing before we head into Vanessa's interview, if you head over to patreon.com/the savvy luminary, I have 4 levels so that you can become a Patreon. At the neophyte level, you can get monthly downloadable PDF calendars for all of the Astro events. We have 3 versions, the Americas, Europe, and Asia, Australia, New Zealand. Or at the Igniter level, you can get all of your new moon and full moon worksheets, including this upcoming Virgo new moon worksheet. At the creator level, you get everything before, plus you get a free course, How to Read Your Natal Chart for Business. And at the thought leaders level, you get replays of all my master classes, including my most recent masterclass on Mars retrograde. All right, so here we go on to Vanessa's interview. Oh my goodness, I am so excited to be able to chat with my business astrology friend and spiritual guide, Vanessa Cordoniu. Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Leslie. So excited to be here with you. So excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Oh my gosh. So Vanessa and I have known each other maybe about a year now. Is that right?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
We've been studying business astrology and some like really in-depth astrology with our teacher, Malata Sachik. And I recently had an amazing, what kind of reading did I have with you? I don't actually know.
We had an Akashic record reading. Yeah.
Holy smokes. And my mind was blown just having the experience of Vanessa and her sharing kind of some things that I've already like, kind of felt deep down, and you just kind of really shone the light on those things. Like it really had a profound effect on me. Like, especially, when you had mentioned that in past lives, I have been a high priestess and that I've always known how to read the stars. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that you needed time to do other things in this lifetime as well, right? And then stepping into reclaiming it when as you are reclaiming it, as you've been reclaiming it.
Yes. But enough about me. Tell me about you. What do you do and who do you serve and all of that fun stuff?
Well, so for many years as I started, I was the urban priestess. And it took a lot of time for me to reclaim that. I grew up in a South American home where spirituality was accepted, espiritismo, Catholicism, a lot of indigenous practices that were passed on, and in South America. And so it was part of my life. I started reading at a young age, but it took a long time for me to really claim that I did not think that I could have a business out of this. I looked at it as like, oh, my gift, my contribution to community or society, but then I had the corporate gigs going on. And so what I do now is, so I've metamorphosized from the local healer, right, that I was in Queens and New York City, and to the urban priestess. And lately I've rebranded and come out and stepped out as the Biz Bruja, the business Bruja. And what that means is I help my clients connect to their powerful intuition, heal their ancestral patterns, ancestral, sometimes trauma, and tap into not only their soul gifts, but their ancestral gifts so they could live the life that they want, and they can create a business that is not only one where you feel excited and you feel fulfilled and you're giving back to the world, but also abundant, right? It's also
Yes.
taking care of us. And so that's really what I'm doing as the business bruja, tapping into that inner magic that we all carry so we can really allow that to guide our sacred work, our sacred calling in the world. But the way that I do it is by helping empaths, intuitive, sensitives develop their intuitive ability through Akashic record training, intuition training. I do it through in-depth guidance and coaching programs like soul coaching. And I also do it through my school, the School of Healing Arts, that is just getting started. It's always been here, but it didn't have a name, right? It's like the thing exists before the name does often. And so through a lot of trainings online that I do in retreats and such. And lately what's been happening, so my clientele has shifted. I first started by doing almost 19, 20 years of free circles, by the way, in my apartment. New York
Oh,
City, okay,
yeah.
squishing everybody in. And it was a wait list, but people still wanted to do it. It was like, and if it was enough people that were bilingual, it would be a bilingual circle. If not, it would be in English. And again, I did not perceive this as a way to make a living. This was service oriented for me. I know that most people now are like, well, I have a gift, I'm going to make money. You know, a lot of people have that. No, it was like years and years and years of just service. And then it was like, ding, ding, ding. I got laid off 3 times.
Mm.
Right. And so lately, the people that I serve has shifted a little bit, but I would say the age range usually was, I would say 20 to 60-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now suddenly during the pandemic and being on Instagram and doing a lot of lives and being very present, I'm seeing that I'm getting a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds and also sprinkling of 40 and 50 who want to step into their healing gifts, who are not pausing. They're like, get me the training, girl, get me the training.
Yes.
I'm ready. I've been studying. Let me jump in. And I'm there sure enough, like, okay, here's the class. Let's go. And so it's been an exciting journey, even during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh, there's so many questions I have that popped up there. I want to hear about this kind of like this awareness that's kind of popping up with like the clients that you're calling in now. But you had said something earlier that I always felt that I got stuck on. I'm looking at your chart. You are a Gemini rising, just like me. And it's no wonder that we wear like not just like one or like 17 hats, like people talk about. It's like, no, we got like 100 hats, right? That we're wearing, because like we love so many things, and we like assimilate and bring everything together. But what you had said that really kind of sparked this tingle in me, it was like, it doesn't even have a name yet. Even though I've been doing this thing, it doesn't have a name yet, and like the name will come. And what I love about that so much is because like for me personally with my Gemini rising, like I have Saturn right at my rising sign. So I'm like, I gotta get the name. Like I get stuck on the name. I gotta find the right words. Like Saturn won't let me like move into it. But you're like, no, it doesn't need a name. I'm still gonna do this. Can you talk a little bit about that? I love that.
Totally. Thank you. So it's because, when I was learning my stuff as a kid, we didn't have a name. There was no word empath,
Mhm.
right? At least, and we're still gaining a language in Spanish, empático, we say it. And so we're still gaining language around what is this field. Metaphysics is old, but there have been just many languages. And so I think that when it comes forward, we have to allow ourselves to be in it and play in it. I think that the business mind or the strategic mind can come in like, it must have a structure and it must be a way, and it has to survive this way, and how is it going to? And the truth is that sometimes people go through all these machinations to get the right name of the thing like dies in a month, in a year, right? And so allowing ourselves to just step forward and hear that call if we can, and that's what I do, and then allow the name to like, because I was teaching, my intuitive leverage and 8-week intuition boot camp is now changing. I haven't had the name yet, but it's changing.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I've run its course. Over 230 people have taken it online. It's been online for 5 years, twice a year, and I only take about 20 to 30 people at a time. And I noticed that before I taught that, I was already gathering people in my apartment saying, hey, we're going to do some intuitive stuff. Oh, we're going to talk about this. We're going to do guide stuff. We're going to do this. We're going to do spiritual stuff. And so the name is important because it can attract audiences. It gives you a brand, all that. At the same time, it shouldn't be so powerful that it stops you, because we
Yes.
also need to step into the thing to see if we really want to do it. And I know
Yes.
if Gemini rising, we might change our mind, but a lot of people imagine something and it seems so great in the imagining. You need to step in like I did my first year online, a 9-month, it's a mastermind called the Urban Priestess Mastery, $9,000 for 9 months. My first year online with no list. Well, I loved it, but guess what? It was really hard. It was
Yeah.
tough to do 3 retreats, 21 teachers in 9 months and have all this personal work. I was like, you know what? I'd rather have a signature program and do one-on-one stuff and then one-offs. And so we need to try out stuff.
Yes.
I would say we need to explore stuff. We need to allow ourselves to play. It's not rigid. I mean, we're here online. This is energetic space. How are
Yes.
we going to try to really anchor that in such a way that it's immovable? Let it be anchored enough that it gives us a structure,
Yes.
but it still has to flow and be flexible.
So I love that so much because I've seen people, if I may reflect back, I've seen people really get stuck, right? Like coming from, I'm an astrologer and I'm a brander and I help with business coaching, and I see people get stuck on like, I need a logo, I need a name, I need like you making up all these kinds of excuses, where no, it's in the process that we discover and evolve about like what really works, and how you started and how it just evolved, and you didn't let that name hold you back. And I want everybody to really notice their excuses and be like, hey, is this really important?
Hey, super, super. What you just said is so key, because I'll admit, because I started so young. I started reading people at 16 and then professionally at 22. And then I got trained in hypnosis in my 20s. I did Reiki training in my early 20s and then did more training and more training. I'm still doing training now because that's like part of who I am.
Yeah.
Not anybody needs to do that. It's just who I am. And I remember people asking me at 26, I want you to teach. I want you to teach. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And I was like, I'm not ready. I need more courses. And I wish I could go back in time and like grab me by the hair and be like, just start, sister, just start. And we need to, we learn by doing. We live into the answers. We live into the answers. And the people that I've seen who've analyzed, that's what I call it. They've analyzed so much about what it looks like. Sometimes leave within a year of business.
Yeah.
And so if we can be more flexible with it, honestly, last year I started to get the business bruja, and I'm like, no, like really no, like 2019, I was like, nah, nah, nah. And then I sat down and it was like the Biz Bruja. And I was like, well, I do a lot of healing work. I was like, yeah, but you help people tap into their soul work and really heal their ancestral traumas that keep them from being visible and doing their work and creating their businesses. And I'm like, all right, well, guess what? I created that like October-ish and put out the podcast, which is still in its baby stages. And that's what brought, like, I have to be honest. I mean, it was also my sharing online, 3,000 new followers on Instagram. And we know that it's sometimes not that easy, right, to get the followers.
Yeah. It's not easy
And,
for me.
no, but it's not, it's not. And so, but the name Bruja, because there's more and more Latinx people reclaiming who they are.
Yes.
Was one thing that like, boom, clicked them into, okay, she's one of us. She's been here. All right. And so I would say that I had to be flexible. Part of me was like, no, I'm established already. I'm the urban priestess. I was like, no, honey, you're also a brujita. You're also a little witch. Like,
Yes.
allow yourself to shift. And so I'm really glad that it did. And it opened up so many. And then the new clients came in.
Yeah, I love that you're able to connect to the kind of the Latinx community who doesn't really have this role model of kind of a healer. Like this is like very innovative, right? Like even I think part of the reason why I'm doing so well too, I'm half Filipino and half white, and oftentimes people think that I'm Latina, and I wish I could speak Spanish, but I don't. But there's this kind of this growing like, okay, well, spirituality used to like look like it was reserved for like all these like kind of blonde boho or like old white guy guru kind of things. But where did their modalities and their access to their traditional spirituality come from? It came from people like your ancestors, people like my ancestors. And now we're kind of bringing it full circle. And now not us, we talked earlier about not having the role models, right? Us not being able to recognize that, but now all of a sudden we find ourselves as role models. How's that been for you?
Oh, I'm getting the chills. And this is something that I wrote. So my father passed last year in November, and when he passed, I already knew, like in 2018, that my parents, who were not really sick or anything and were very strong people, might cross over, because also, Pluto was going through the 8th for me, and there was some, and I was like, well, I'm losing some people. There's some things happening here.
Yeah.
And so I knew that, and I did ancestral work. And one of the things that I got very, very clearly for me was about stepping into elderhood. No matter what age we're in, it could be you're in your 40s, it could be you're in your 50s or 60s, stepping into the mentor, into the role model. Yep. We're not quite an elder because we're not a crone yet, but yet we're a queen. I think we're kind of in that queen phase, right? But then my mom left in April, right? And people said to me, well, Vanessa, how come you didn't take time off and I was like, no, because I felt when my parents crossed over that they passed on the baton in their own way. They passed on the torch and like, go sister, go girl, go, we love you, go, 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 go Vani, and so I'm getting emotional, but that's part of the energy, right, that brought me into, I am a little emotional, but stepping into this place of being able to hold a space that I didn't see. My mom held that space for me, because my mom is the one who knew when I was 16 that I was an empath, and she didn't know that word. When I was 16, I walked into a room and there was a woman with her back turned to me, and I was very happy when I walked in. And suddenly I got hit with this energy and I started crying, and I was like, oh, how could he do this to me? Oh my God, how could he do this to me? And then I ran out like, what's wrong with me? And my mom followed me. She goes, nothing's wrong with you. I was talking to my friend whose husband just left her for her best friend, with her best friend. They both cheated on her. And so she was saying the same words before you walked in the room. And so that's an extreme case of being an empath. You walk in and it hits you and you like get it. And so my mom was a mentor in that way. But all the people that I could find when I was 14, 15, 16 in New York City, um, they were beautiful Latina women sitting in a small room with candles. And I have to say, sadly, a lot of them passed away early because they were in a small room with candles all day. You know, there's some not great things that come out of candles.
Yeah.
And they didn't take care of themselves. And so one of the things that I picked up at a young age, because I went with my mom when I was 6, 7, 8, 12, my mom read cards. I was like, oh, I don't want to be one of those. And with all due respect, I was like, how do I live a life where, yes, I may have to be in a room doing the work and then step out?
Yeah.
And so those were some of the mentors. And then I met other women in like my late 20s and 30s, but they were more shamanic and pagan path. They were not into capitalism. They were not into creating a business. And so I find that me and people in my age group, we stepped into being the bridge from the unseen healer, from the healer that was in the room burning all the candles for their community and praying and cleansing them and doing limpias, to the pagan. And I was sat in Sweat Lodge for 20 years with Beverly Little Thunder and her daughter Luciania Echevarria. I took classes with Diane Stein, who's from California, an older feminist witch. She created books, but all of them, when I met them, they were like, no, capitalism. But then I sat there and I'm like, I'm working in corporate. I'm doing all these sessions. I don't have a life. And so that's when now I feel like people like you and me, we're now the example of what can be if we step into it.
Yes.
And we also make money and support ourselves.
Yes.
And we create boundaries. We don't have to be capitalistic to a degree where we're trampling over people's rights and hurting people and the buck over the person.
Yes.
But we can also get paid for the sacred work that we do. You know, we're mystics without monasteries, as Carolyn May says, the medical intuitive.
Oh.
You know, right? So she said that several years ago. We're mystics without walls. We're mystics without monasteries. We're priestesses really without temples. Our homes can be our temples. We're shamans without our village sometimes, right? We're astrologers maybe without our village. And so how do we do what we do in a way? And so I think you and I, our generation is figuring it out. And the younger folks are looking at it and they're going, oh, she's doing it, but she told me she's supporting herself for 8 years, or this one's supporting herself. Oh, but this course. Oh, and so they're now jumping in quicker than we did. Because I think we had to like process, oh, wait a minute. People like us can also, because all the books I saw were Louise Hay, and I love Louise Hay. I cried when I met her. But I only saw really skinny, white, blonde young women. She was the only older one I saw.
Or old white men.
My hypnosis teacher's still alive, and he was an older white man. And in hypnosis, most of the well-known, there's a few well-known women, right? But most of the well-known hypnosis teachers or hypnotists, hypnotherapists are older white men. And that's why with my program that I'm creating right now, it's going to be filled with diversity, diverse women. And so, yes, but I think we were like in between stage.
Yeah. I feel like we are at the beginning of the awakening. I think we were born at exactly the right moment that we were supposed to be born, the exact right color from the exact right cultures. Like everything it does feel like this is all coming to fruition. And oh gosh, so many things, so many things. But one of the things I wanted to kind of point out as kind of the similarity is about this business expression through the spirituality, right? Because for me, like I do definitely see our businesses as like this extension of us, right? Like for so many women, especially for women our age, we're taught that like, oh, money is evil, or money is this, or money is that. And okay, why were we taught those things? Because like, hello, money is power. And when women have money, we share that power, right? And so it kind of goes against the whole capitalist construct. And women, we need to have more money. And I feel like there is this growing movement of women saying, hey, yeah, I want to tap into this power. I want to tap into my soft power, like through spirituality and intuition and empathicness, which is mostly a feminine domain. There are lots of men with that kind of ability too. But I love how this is all blending in and how we're all helping our clients reach for their soul's work in this abundant way so that we can really affect the movement of soft power rising and sharing the wealth. I mean, does that seem a little too out there? Sometimes
No,
I
no, no.
get like
It's totally that. It's totally that. You know, I was very blessed to attend for almost 20 years and teach at a women's festival where women gather, and then they change it to women gathering. And it was like 400, 500 women, you know, spiritual women, witches, shamans. And this whole energy of sharing and supporting each other is something that I've grown up with, but and been around, but I felt like it wasn't replicated sometimes in the women groups that I was involved with. I think people are waking up to that we're
yes.
supposed to be more collaborative in order to get through all this, the pandemic, maybe the economy and the recession and everything that's happening. We need to be more collaborative. We need to know that our softer skills, as we would call intuition, um, our empath skills, these are the things that are going to help us innovate as we manage like the future. You know, I wanted to share that I never, when I speak to young women too. I work at a young women's leadership training every summer as the lead trainer. And I come in with my talking stick, we sit in the circle. And one of the things that I say is like, and a lot of them, most of them are immigrant or first generation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I say to them, you're sitting here being pressured to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? The traditional careers. And I was like, I just want you to breathe this in for a moment. When I was your age, 17, 18 years old, there was no Wi-Fi. I could not have imagined. I could not have imagined. I said, when I was 22, my guide said, by the way, it's great that you're at NYU studying film, but honey, you're not going to be a film director. My guides told me that. You're going to be a spiritual director, sister. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And how am I going to make that happen? And what's going to happen? So I said, you're all sitting here and you're feeling the pressure, but this is the age of innovation. I mean, we've always been in it, but now even more so with what we're dealing with. I said, we may all be doing holographic classrooms in less than 3 years,
Yes.
right?
All in VR. My husband's a VR developer.
There you go, right? I was like, I'm going to pick it at this age and leave it there. No, but no, allowing ourselves to be seen at all ages. But at the same
Yes.
time, it's really, I think that you're not out there. You're totally on point, and that's what's needed the most. And also, we can have logic and we can have intuition. That's like what I talk about in my
Yeah.
courses. We don't have to, what is this? And like either or, what is that? Like that is such just
Like science and spirituality, they belong together.
great.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if my brain wasn't logical, I wouldn't be able to create courses. If my brain wasn't logical, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. I'm super intuitive, and my intuition guides me to the things that I should do and how to do them, but they work. And you know, we always find, and I'm sure you find it with your clients, if you're one extreme or the other, if you're too in the masculine energy, you're going to have
Yeah.
an imbalance, you're going to tip over. If you're too in the feminine, then you're never going to have the energy to actually build a business because you're always dreaming about it, feeling about it, lighting the candles about it, right?
Not doing about it.
Right, right. So it's just like the combination of how do we do this? But I
Yeah.
think we're totally moving into the innovative space. And I would encourage anyone who's listening, you know, step out. No, nothing is perfect. We're imperfectly perfect. That's what attracts
Yes.
us.
Yes.
And that's what attracts people to us. You know, people say, oh, but everybody's doing this work now. No, no one's going to do it like you. No one's going to do the combination of the work that you do, how you do it, because of your ancestors, because of your experience.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
if you've ever gone to a conference where you see 30 teachers speaking, they're probably talking generally about the same thing, but you don't care for 30, 25 of them. And then the last 3, you're like, oh my God, I love them.
Their
Nothing,
energy is so amazing.
right? We vibe to who we vibe to, you
Yep.
know?
Oh my gosh. So I love that so much. And so let's talk about the vibe and kind of brand visibility, right? So you know that I look at astrology from business, but also from branding, so we can show up and lead from this place of authenticity and be seen, right? Because for people, like at least for me, I don't know if this was for you, but it was hard for me to be seen. Not only was it hard, but it was also scary. And I broke through that. So I wanted to hear if you had any kind of anything you want to share about your brand visibility story and
Oh, yes. Thank you.
yeah.
Well, and coming from that whole service, now everybody's like, show up and serve. And I'm like, duh, like, okay, like, like it's a new thing, like authenticity. And I'm like it's new. And so for me, it's like my teachers and the way that I showed up and my mom, like I gathered circle, like I showed up and I served, I helped. So my mindset was service. But what happens when you do too much service and you're not showing up to take care of yourself in other ways, it turns into servitude,
Mm.
right? And we know, right? I have my sun and my moon and my Mercury all in the 12th
All the
house.
12th house. I'm looking at
So
that.
it's all behind the scenes. It's all behind the scenes, right? And I liked that position in the beginning because I was the advisor, the secret teacher, the secret that, but it spilled over into my corporate career. Everybody came to me for guidance, but I wasn't getting the accolades.
Mm.
Over time, when I finally stepped into my work, I stepped into my work really online, I would say, in 2012. And when I did it in 2012, I just went for broke. I'm like, I'm going to come out as the urban priestess. I'm just going to be what I've always been and talk about what is a priestess and channeling that information and supporting people with it and helping people connect to that. But I'll tell you, I had to do so much work. I mean, my life was leading up to the point of how to come out. And
Mm-hmm.
it was always like, especially if you call yourself anything like a priestess or a mystic, we're taught not to have like an ego. Like it's not about you. But the thing is, like, I went from this journey of like, ew, we should not put ourselves first and
Mm-hmm.
people don't need to know us, to, well, how else are we going to have a personal connection?
Yeah.
How am I going to build a relationship if people don't know who I am? So I started like to turn it from marketing, branding, which felt, a little to me at the time, to sharing, which felt so good. Creating
Mm.
community online, right? Let's bring everybody into a call, a collective call for the new moon, the full moon, like I did in person, and then showing up as I am. And so it was hard. I had to do some hypnosis sessions. And so and all of us, wherever we come from, whether we come from Australia, Europe, Africa, China, Korea, at somewhere along the line, historically, we've been told that sensuality, that spirituality, that healing abilities, the natural stuff,
Mm-hmm.
what we're born with is not good. It could be demonic.
Yeah,
And so I have to heal all
dangerous.
that, or dangerous. It could be out of control. I'm the first psychic medium to talk about stuff because I'm like fourth generation. Nobody in my family talked about it publicly. So I had to do ritual. I had to do a little therapy. I had to do hypnosis to step out. And once I came out as the urban priestess, I found out that people were waiting for me. And I would say that for anyone, like when you're ready to come out, you're going to find your people who already have soul agreements with you, or, they're just
Mm.
vibing to your vibe. And then from the urban priestess to the Biz Bruja, my first podcast episode was about reclaiming the word Bruja. What does that mean? And how we do serve the community. You
Yes.
know, any sort of witchy person. I mean, now they show the solitary witch a lot, and there are a lot of people who are solitary witches. But traditionally in the villages, in the neighborhoods and towns, the healer, the midwife, the woman who knew about the stars and the cycles of life was a woman that people consulted. So she belonged to the community too and connected to the
Yeah.
community.
Oh.
And so that's how I just kept showing up. But it did take work. And I'll tell you, like right now I'm up leveling. And recently I did like a more, I was on Univision, and during our meetings they were saying, be generic, be generic, be generic. And that upset me a little bit. Like, I'll be honest with everyone, y'all, I cried. I cried some tears. I went in to see my
Just be your
partner,
inauthentic self. Yeah, don't shine brightly.
and I cried tears, and I was like, nah, it took me decades to own myself and claim the word, and claim all the words. And my partner hugged me, and then I just sat down and I showed up, And we settled on the word, holistic teacher, clinical hypnotist. And it really, what I'm understanding is that most of us are so much more than a few words.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, all of us, are so much more than a few words. And that the reason that they were doing it was not about me. Nobody was censoring me. It was just they were afraid of their own show and the audience and then their bosses. And so I just had this whole thing like, it doesn't matter if they call me. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. The words matter and they don't. If they were to call me just a coach,
Yeah.
once I'd come on, people would know as they talk to me, like my expertise. And so I'm beginning to relax into that as I bring in more public relations and media outreach. I've never gone after this type of media before. So I've been online 8 years, fully supporting myself since day one with my ups and downs, but coming out more, coming out more. And a quick thing, because I know I can talk a lot, but I did not want to do video. So I did not want to do video. I was writing blogs before I started my business. So I was getting clients from my words.
Mm-hmm.
And around 2016, I think it was 3 Black men that were killed that week by the police. And all my empaths and my clients were like crying, were writing me. And I usually don't take days off when I'm a little sad. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I breathe, I take care of myself, and I show up, because when I show up, I'm in the space of spirit and it heals me. I couldn't work when that happened. I was so distraught and so upset about the world and where we were in and where the presidential elections were heading to.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I was like, I have to show up. And I got the camera on Facebook Live in 2016. And I was like, hey, everybody, I had my candles. Let's do a little meditation about this. And I talked about it. I was very open. I was like, I've been waiting till I lose weight. I've been waiting till this. I've been waiting till that. What better moment than to know and feel that we need to come together, that we need to change the world. And so that's how I came out. I came out because I felt like it was a demand from my inner self that what I believed in was important enough. So it wasn't just about being seen for my business per se, but yet it was, because my brand is also about community.
Yeah.
And
Circle.
that's what kept me in. And then it kept me in. And then, just to share, if anybody knows another language, then I turned from that initial into Spanish. And I got more followers on Facebook page in Spanish than I ever did in English from doing 1 minute a day video at that time with the Facebook algorithms, 5 times a week for 2.5 years. In the first year and a half, 44,000 followers came in the year and a half. I don't have that following in English, but I also didn't do 1 minute a day, which I called a Soul Minute with V, Un Minuto para el Alma. By the time you say that title, like the minute's over, right? But, and so it was just like, what do I love? What do I care about? And I couldn't have lived with myself. I mean, I'm being maybe dramatic, but I don't know if I could have really lived with myself if I didn't step up when I felt like my community was calling forth somebody.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Vanessa, so many like just wisdom like drops, more than a drop, wisdom like deluge you've given us about, like not getting stuck on the words, about showing up and like doing and evolving that way. And then this last piece about like just like it's not about being seen, but it's like, how do you connect with people if you're not sharing your story, if you're not showing your face? Because there's lots of people talking about this, but there are certain people looking just specifically for your energy. So I think that's so beautiful. And is it okay if I give you a little reading? I mean, I know you're already an astrology expert. And so
I love to hear. And you know what? I love to hear, and I'm open to receive, sister. Thank you.
oh, yes. So I hope I can add a little bit of something that maybe you haven't seen or just a different perspective. So, I feel like our energy vibes so much because we have the same angles, right? We're both Gemini rising. We both have Pisces on the midheaven. And I'm like, oh yeah, Pisces on the midheaven. No wonder things was like, just like total opened up for you when you started showing up a minute on video every day, right? Pisces on the midheaven, just like having instant access to Vanessa, seeing her beautiful face on video. I mean, that's so aligned for you. You have Taurus, Sun, and Moon and Mercury all in your 12th house. right? Like your
Sense.
ability to feel, intuit, your ability to communicate, your ability to radiate, all in the from the past, bringing all these secrets into the now. Like all of this energy is moving into the now, like crossing over your rising sign, becoming that leader that connects somebody to their past. And, you know, your son having like a beautiful trine to your Pluto and Jupiter down at your IC and Virgo. Holy smokes, just the intensity and the expansiveness of being like connected to your roots, your family, your ancestors, like, and the gifts that come up through those roots that help you rise.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh. And I see that servitude that you have now integrated into this place of balance, right? The Mars at, you know, right under your descendant in your sixth house, opposite your moon and your Mercury. How when you were younger, you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna give it away for free, being the martyr, being motivated by that martyr. And you're like, oh no, wait. That's not the right integration of that energy. Right.
Totally. And allowing people to take advantage in a way. Because
Yeah.
everybody knew that you call Vanessa and she's going to pull through even if she's dying. She's going to show up. And my parents are like that too. And now I'm like, I've been healing that. I'm like, I need to pull away, bringing in more people to help, saying no to things, the sacred no.
Oh, I love that. The sacred no. Oh my gosh. So many gems. I love this so much, Vanessa. We could probably talk more because I know we don't know like each other like on a personal level, but there are so many similarities that, you know, this podcast would turn into 2 hours. But
I do have a little, I have a little question for you. I know I don't want to
oh,
turn it 2 hours. Any insight you could give into my little Chiron there hanging out in the 10th, is it, I think?
oh yeah, look at that. Well, I was noticing your north node right at your midheaven, right? Right at Pisces. So yes, being like just visible, like growing into this as your career and claiming it. I think that Chiron on the 10th, the way that I'm seeing this is that you've done the work already, right? Like you've already passed your Chiron return, right? You've integrated this, like, okay, I don't have to be perfect, the perfect leader to show up. I just have to, you even just said that. I just have to be exactly who I am and my vibe will give it off, right? You've done the work, the past lives of being the wounded leader, and you're like, no more of this. I'm going to be the wounded leader and I'm still going to show up and I'm still going to be strong, even though, okay, maybe I'm missing a limb here or there, but like I can still lead this spiritual task force. Yeah. How do you see your Chiron there at the 10th house?
I definitely feel like I have the like wounding of I definitely feel like it was a wounding too of other lifetimes of feeling like maybe I couldn't fulfill the leadership demands that I placed on myself or others placed on myself. And even just being an elder sister in this life, right? And taking care of my sister and brother and, you know, my brothers and my sister. I had to give myself a break. Like you don't have, and so sometimes people, my family says, like when I hang out with them, because I left at 20, right? And they live in Miami, I lived in New York all my life, now in Pennsylvania. They're like, you don't need to control everything. I'm like, no, I've never been like that. When I'm in the place where this is what I do, when it's my domain, I'm going to step in.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to give some thoughts to something. If I'm on a caravan with people and I see we're going to go off a cliff, I'm going to say something. But I'm not someone that needs to like run everything, micromanage, control. I actually love it when somebody shows up and is really good at that. And I'm like, yeah, you do it.
Yeah.
I have a friend like that. Yeah.
People see you though as the authority, right? Like you, that's just like your natural
I was a little kid
state.
and they thought I was the authority. Yeah.
There's no
I'm
doubt
like,
about that.
I just have attitude. That's all, people. I don't know what I'm doing. No.
Oh my gosh, I love your chart. I love all the energies there, and no wonder we can connect like this.
Totally, totally. And I wanted to say too, like there was a time in building my business where I worked a lot, and it was in the beginning because I was living alone in New York. The rents were high. I was on my own,
Mm.
and I was laid off. I mean, essentially, the universe said, "Well, honey, if you're not going to take the full leap," because I was doing it part time for many, many, many years, and charging some things, other things were free. But at that point, after the third layoff, because a department would close, a business would sell, my friends in my circle were like, "You got to do what you do, sister. You got to do what you do." I'm like, "How do I do it?" And so I went to the space. Then I went back, had a surgery. But again, the universe let me go the day before surgery. So the universe kept pushing me out like, no, you don't belong in corporate.
Yeah.
And I would say that going through all of those difficult times only just made me stronger and more aware of the pressure that I've put on myself. And so for anybody listening, like go with the flow, listen to yourself, and pay attention to what's happening. If you're getting laid off 3 times in a row,
Yeah.
if if
That's a sign.
right, if the doors are closing on you, yet your spirit door is like super wide open, going, "Come,"
Yeah.
there's a divan waiting for you, or like a chariot of angels, like, "Come on." Um, we've got to listen to it and take that leap. And very interesting, I think, with the North Node in Pisces, once I take the leap on anything, it flows.
Yep.
So do that if that's right for you, but also find balance, because I worked so much in the beginning to create the foundation that I'll be honest with, like, even my love life suffered. Like, I had relationships that were breaking up. Now I have a 5-year relationship. And when I finally moved to Pennsylvania and my business was already going for, I would say, how many years now? It was 4 years, it was already going. I started to take weekends off and I started to explore improv. So for anyone who's out there and you're busy working, 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 remember that we need to like play. I mean,
Play.
of
Yeah.
course, not everybody's a Gemini rising, but everybody could do well with play,
Yep.
where we unplug and allow some other part of ourselves to be free, coming back even more creative. And
Oh,
so I missed that during the pandemic, but I literally was on stage like almost every weekend after a year of training. I did a year of training, and it opened up so much more energy, you know,
oh,
so
yes.
much more creativity, so much more flow, because
We need it.
yeah.
A
So whatever it
whole
is, it
life.
could be painting for some people, it could be, kayaking, it could be running, whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
Something that feeds your spirit, that allows you to be present, but not like, working on your business all the time.
Oh my gosh, I get a lot. I agree with that. Unfortunately for me, my hobby, well, it's not really a hobby. It's also just another profession because Gemini rising.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you know this, but I also have like a artistic background like you. I went to school for music and I still play professionally classical music. And I noticed that you're born in Peru, and we are actually working with a Peruvian American composer, a Latina, and she wrote this amazing piece for us called Mitos. I play in a Latin American classical music ensemble, which is like way out there.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love that you have that balance.
Yeah.
I love that. And I did some acting as a kid, as a young woman, and then thought maybe I'll come back to the community theater when I'm in my 60s, and it happened sooner. So, and you've never let it go.
I
So
never
that's
let
really
it go.
important. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you. That's so awesome.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for your time. This was so much fun. And can you tell everybody how people can find you or what you're up to next? Yeah.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited we got to do this again. I got to have you on mine.
Oh my
You have
gosh, I
you
love
like
that.
have you on mine. We're going to, um, so people can find me at thebizbruja.com. You can find me at the Biz Bruja on Instagram. I'm mostly on Instagram, and then of course on my website. And I'm developing the School of the Healing Arts, with ARTES at the end, artes or art.
Yes.
And I will be
Escuchar this.
sí, artes. And I will be sharing an intuitive journey, an 8-week intuition program to deepen into our hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing, mediumship, and how to apply that in our life and our business. So if you're interested, check it out.
Oh my gosh, I gotta check it out. So I'll have all of those links on our show notes so people can find it at thesavvyluminary.com. And thank you so much, Vanessa, for joining me and our guests, or our listeners rather, today. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone.
Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to The Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.